Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for this licensing subcommittee. We will begin with the first item of the agenda, which is the election of a chair for these proceedings.
Could I move your good self, Chair, please?
Thank you, Councillor Canavan.
Councillor Richardson, member of the subcommittee.
Would you be able to support the proposal for chair?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes.
Thank you so much. On to housekeeping. I will ask the clerk to read out the housekeeping notice regarding how the meeting will be managed.
Thank you, Chair. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note that if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of this building. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down on your laptops completely. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk. And for the record, I am Councillor Alistair Keddy and I'm joined by Councillor Patrick Canavan and Councillor Judy Richardson. Item 2, apologies. Do we have apologies for the meeting?
An apology for absence has been received from Councillor Chris Matthews, and Councillor Canavan, as first reserve, has stepped up to sit on the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Canavan. Councillor Richardson?
None.
I also have no declarations of interest in this case. Item 4, protocol for public speaking at hearings. I would ask all present to note that this was included with the agenda sheet, which takes us on to item 5, which is the application for a review of the premises licence for Ashley Vegas at 408 Ashley Road, Poole. I will ask each participant to introduce themselves and state their role in this hearing. I am Councillor Alistair Keddy and I will be chairing the subcommittee.
Councillor Judy Richardson, member of the licensing subcommittee.
And from BCP Council, we have
Sarah Rogers, Principal Licensing Officer, BCP Council.
Thank you.
And I'm Linda Cole, Legal Advisor to the subcommittee this morning.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Cutler. I'm the clerk to the licensing subcommittee today.
Thank you. And for the applicants?
Thank you, Chair. So Tanya Shruddin, Licensing Officer and applicant on behalf of Licensing Authority.
Andy Cross and White from Trading Standards, BCP Council.
Thank you very much. The licence holder, Mr. Youssef Sadi, is not present.
That's correct.
Okay, noted. Before I run through the procedure for this morning, please may I check that all persons who have been given notice of their intention to speak have been identified, and any person who wishes to withdraw a representation or wishes not to speak has also been identified. I will take that as affirmative. I will now run through the proposed procedure, and the order of speaking for the hearing will be as follows. The licensing officer will present their report. Questions of the licensing officer by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. The applicant will make their application. We will then have questions to the applicant by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. Normally, at this point, the licence holder would make their representations, but Mr. Youssef Sadi is not present at the hearing this morning. So we will not be able to ask questions of the licence holder for that reason. All parties will be given an opportunity to sum up, with the party who spoke last to go first. The hearing will then conclude. The subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I will now ask all parties to confirm agreement on the proposed procedure or make representations. Tanya Jardine.
Yeah, in agreement, thank you.
Sarah Rogers.
Yes, agree, thank you.
Linda Cole.
Yes, Chair. Agreed.
Andy Crossan-White.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you. I would like to remind all parties speaking not to repeat the information which they have already given in writing, but to expand on their written representations. All questions are to be asked through the chair, and there will be no cross-examination of parties. I will now hand over to the licensing officer to present the report.
Thank you. BCP Council's Licensing Authority has submitted an application to review the premises licence under Section 51 of the Licensing Act. The premises are located on a busy high street, a main thoroughfare of BCP Council, with a mixture of both retail, residential premises and both on and off licensed premises, including a major supermarket chain. The application for review is based on concerns that the licence holder and designated premises supervisor are failing to uphold 2 of the licensing objectives: the prevention of crime and disorder and the protection of children from harm. During inspections of the premises, officers of the licensing authority identified multiple breaches of licence conditions, including the failure to maintain required records such as CCTV, staff training logs and refusals logs. In addition, illicit tobacco and vapes were seized from the premises by trading standards. Despite formal warnings and advice issued by the licensing authority, no remedial action has been taken, and there has been no engagement from the licence holder or DPS since the application was submitted. Dorset Police made a representation in support of the review application. No other representations have been received by any of the other responsible authorities or any other person. Since submission of the application, no contact has been made to the licensing authority by the licence holder or DPS at any time. Whilst in attendance at the premises to display the public notice for the review, I spoke with the new owner, Mr. Youssef Sadi, about the review process, and I advised him to seek legal advice and guidance to assist him. It should also be noted that no application has been received to transfer the licence or vary the DPS, although Mr. Youssef Sadi is listed as a director of the licence company holder Ashley Vegas Limited, in accordance with according to Companies House. Members are reminded that any powers that exercised must be appropriate and proportionate, aimed at promoting the licensing objectives, and specifically directed at the concerns identified in the application, once those have been clearly established during this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the licensing officer at this point? Members?
Just to clarify, there's been no response or action from Mr. Zadeh in relation to your request and legal advice and all of that sort of thing?
Oh, I've not spoken to him since my attendance at the premises when I put the site notice up.
Do we have any further questions of the licensing officer? Thank you. I would now like to invite the applicant to make their representation.
Chair. So I don't intend to repeat the full content of my report before you today, but I'd like to highlight the key points and the events that led to this review and the reasons why the Licensing Authority has taken this unusual step to bring the matter before you today. So this enforcement action was instigated following a report from Trading Standards Officer Mr. Crossan-White. He advised that on the 12th of March 2025, a multi-agency visit had taken place, and it was carried out by Trading Standards, HMRC and Dorset Police. During that visit, illicit tobacco and vapes were seized, and Dorset Police also confiscated an offensive weapon. It was also reported that the premises were not upholding the conditions of their premises licence, and that is why he brought that to my attention so that we can investigate ourselves. So following this, on the 19th of April 2025, myself and a colleague visited the premises. The individual left in charge of at the time was unfamiliar with licensing laws. He was obstructive and unable to assist us officers in our inquiries. Numerous breaches of the licensing conditions were identified, as I've detailed in the application. The individual claimed to be covering for a friend who he confirmed was called Hiwa, and who had gone to visit his girlfriend, and he stated that his friend had only recently taken over the premises. On the 11th of April, I sent the premises a breach letter. I sent it to Ashley Vegas Limited, both in the post as well as to the email address that we held on file for the premises license holder. We were then advised that the business had been sold to Mr. Hayo Yousefzadeh, and we were provided with a different email address. The letter was then resent to that to the updated email address. But we'd already also posted it out to the premises. We also requested confirmation within the email of the designated premises supervisor status, but I received no response despite some chasing, and despite various attempts, we were unable to make contact with the DPS, Mrs. Shanaz Saeed Abdullah. On the 30th of April 25, myself and a colleague conducted a follow-up visit due to the lack of communication from the premises. We met with Mr. Yousefzadeh, who was at the premises. He stated that he'd only recently taken over the business. He appeared unaware of the licensing requirements and the seriousness of selling alcohol. He confirmed he had not received any training from the previous license holder, but recently completed the personal license course. He confirmed that the DPS name and stated that he intended to take over the role once his personal license was issued. We reviewed the license conditions with him, particularly those previously found to be in breach. He produced some paperwork from his training, which had not yet been completed. We provided guidance on how to use these documents and reminded him that the premises remained non-compliant with the premises license. On the 21st of May, 2025, I issued a further breach letter following on from the 30th of April visit and requesting an update on the steps being taken to address the breaches, but again, no response was received. On the 13th of June, a final letter was sent to Mr. Yousafzadeh advising that formal action would be taken. This letter also offered a final opportunity to respond. Despite this, no acknowledgement or engagement was received. And on reviewing our case management system, it was noted that Mr. Yousafzadeh applied for a personal licence, which was issued on the 25th of July 2025. However, no other communication has been received, and I was only made aware of this development by carrying out my own research, rather than being advised by Mr. Yousafzadeh that he was attempting to make any changes or ensure compliance. Throughout this process, the premises licence holder has failed to respond to any correspondence, has shown no willingness to engage with the licensing authority, and has taken no steps to ensure the licensing objectives are being upheld. As the documents before you show, we have made every effort to support and guide the licence holder towards compliance. The licensing authority follows a phased approach to enforcement, and in this case we made 2 visits and issued multiple letters. However, given the continued lack of cooperation, we were left with no alternative but to submit an application for review of the premises licence. This review is the last resort, a final attempt to secure compliance. It is highly unusual for the licensing authority to bring forward a review for non-compliance, as we always seek to work with the licence holders. But unfortunately, in this case, despite our best efforts, we have been met with silence and inaction, and I find this deeply disappointing. In addition to the licensing breaches, I would urge members to consider the statement from Mr. Crossan-White and the supporting representation from Dorset Police, which further highlight the serious concerns surrounding these premises. Mr. Crossan-White is present today to answer any questions that members may have in relation to his witness statement and any trading standards inquiries. And Dorset Police are not able to attend today, but the representation they have submitted in support of this application sets out their concerns clearly, and I trust members will take that into account in their deliberations. The licensing authority is not seeking to revoke the licence at this stage. Our preferred option, as outlined in the application, is a 3-month suspension of alcohol sales to allow the licence holder to enough time to implement the necessary measures to achieve compliance. We also request the addition of a condition requiring all staff to undergo no proof of age, no sale training, provided free of charge by the trading standards. Of course, members may consider any other action they deem necessary under the Licensing Act, but that is our request at this stage. And I thank you, Chair and members, for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. Do we have questions of the applicant? Members?
Yeah, just double check what you said, if I may. So his personal licence was granted on the 25th of July. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct.
And I wonder if you might be able to explain the basis on which you felt it wasn't appropriate to revoke the licence altogether.
Only because we considered all the options and we just wanted to give him one final opportunity. And if it comes from the licensing members, it might push him, or we expected him to be here today actually, and to be able to explain the reason why he was not upholding the conditions and why he hadn't responded to us. But we usually try and work with premises rather than against them, and rather than just revoke it altogether. We thought provide them with one last opportunity, depending if that's what members decide to do. But the option is there for members to consider.
Yes, I'm just reading through. What's the action on the illegal substances that were picked up there?
We will probably revisit the premises and check to see if they're complying in the future. We're not proposing to take any other legal action. The items will be forfeited and they will be destroyed by trading standards.
Could I also just ask whether any action was taken as a result of the permit only being valid until the 31st of December 2024?
Sorry, could you repeat that again? I didn't hear very well.
Well, as I understand it, the residence permit that he provided was only valid until the 31st of December 2024. So I'm just asking whether any action has been taken as a consequence of it apparently being out of date.
So from our point of view, that's not something that we look into. However, as part of his personal license application, they must have a right to work. And at that point, it was checked with immigration. He does have permission to work in the UK. So he does have a continuous permission until I don't know have those records, but I can find them for you. I think it's until 2028, something along those lines. So it has been extended. I think that was just picked up from trading standards at that point, but as part of his personal license application, he must prove that, and we carry out further inquiries, which we have done, and are content from immigration that there is no concerns and no restrictions on his right to work.
Thank you. So it was on that basis that his personal license was granted?
Correct. Because if it didn't have permission at that point, it would have been refused outright.
I have a question regarding the DPS status. It was indicated that an attempt was made to contact the registered DPS, but there was no response. And that Mr. Yusuf Sadi was intending to apply to become DPS following successful granting of his personal license. Did he make that application? And where are we with the current DPS status?
So as a result of all this, I did try and contact the DPS via telephone and the letter. We didn't have an email address for them. So did it via letter, never received a response. Also telephoned, left messages, no one responded. When I did visit, Mr. Yousafzadeh did confirm that who the person was. And I said, you have contact with them. And his answer was, I've just completed my personal license, at which stage I will apply to be the DPS. And he's got his personal license now, and we would have expected him to apply for the very DPS, but nothing has been received to date.
So in effect, the DPS isn't contactable or traceable or present or executing their responsibilities.
They're not responding to anything. So yes, that is correct. They do not require to, just for clarification, they are.
I think
They have to remove themselves. So if they were no longer interested in being the DPS, they can remove themselves as DPS, but we haven't received that either. So when I did contact when I first the first breach letter and was contacted by the previous contact, and they told me that they were no longer responsible, I did explain that for them to confirm who the DPS was, and that was on the back of that I chased the DPS directly and received no response, and also explained to Mr. Yousafzadeh that if they remove themselves as DPS, then alcohol at those premises would no longer be permitted. But that never took place. Never did they come back to us to say, don't want to be the DPS, or either way. So that's where we stand right now. Sorry.
Thank you for the clarity. I appreciate that.
As just in light of that, it could be argued, therefore, that it's a breach of a mandatory condition that there isn't a valid DPS. So they could further be committing an offence of selling alcohol without a valid DPS.
Can we establish that there is not a valid DPS at this premises?
I would argue by the fact that the person hasn't made any contact and that they're applying to replace them, that it could be argued that there isn't a valid DPS unless that person comes forward and says, "Oh no, I'm aware that I am."
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. So, I would like to ask the Trading Standards Officer, is there anything in addition or a brief summary you could give to your experience on the multi-agency visit?
Yes, the person that seemed to be in charge, if I can call it that, of the shop was Mr. Youssef Dada. He didn't seem to have any idea of the rules regarding the sale of vapes. And he didn't seem to, his use of English, I don't think was sufficient really to handle sort of sales to potential underage buyers, and that is a concern, that they don't really have the people in the shop to prevent underage sales.
Thank you. And just to confirm, your report includes reference to photos of 18,000 plus illegal vapes that were found on the premises?
No, that's about 10 times too much. It was more like 200 and something. I haven't added it up, but some of which were found in a car. The keys were found behind the till, and other vapes were found in the shop. There's probably about less than 100, I think, in the shop, more in the car.
Forgive me, I'm reading the numbers, and where it says enjoy Ultra 9,000 vapes,
Right.
that is the model, not the volume that was noted on premises. Thank you for the clarity. I appreciate that. Members, do we have any additional questions for our Trading Standards Officer? So a car was involved, and that was storing some of the illicit vapes. And was there somebody present who was linked with the car?
Yeah, I haven't included that in my statement, but from my recollection, when we turned up, there were 3 people outside the shop. 2 of them were painting the shop, and one of the other people said it was his vapes in the car. So he was present there. He said they were his rather than for sale in the shop, but quite frankly, didn't believe him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask you about the baseball bat? I'm asking you these questions because you were there at that visit. So,
Yeah.
was there, or were you involved, or can you remember what the response was as to why he had the baseball bat? Why did he think he needed to have a baseball bat under the counter?
It was difficult to really have a conversation with him. The police officers had a conversation with him because his English wasn't that great. So
Okay.
I think, to be fair, he needed an interpreter really to answer questions reliably and accurately.
Okay.
But it seemed he wasn't denying it was his, but he also said that he'd only been there for 3 days. So
Could have
I
been
don't know
there.
if that's covered in the police evidence.
Yeah.
Members, do we have any further questions of the applicant or the Trading Standards Officer? Julie.
Yes, I'm just reading through, just to be clear,
Mm.
illegal vapes and things were found on the premises,
They
yeah?
were, yes.
Okay,
It's in the ACW 6. So they were the 40 Enjoy Ultra 9,000 equates to the roughly amount of
Okay.
puffs. So they have far too much nicotine liquid in them to be legal.
okay.
And to follow up and confirm, those models were the same make and model that were found in the car that was claimed to be owned by one of the 3 people outside.
Yeah, two of the brands, the Hayati Twist and the I think it was the Hayati 4000 were found in the car and in the shop. Yes.
Thank you for that. Sum up with that.
Yeah. I just ask.
Be my guest.
Thank you. Again, because you were sort of there, did the premises license holder appear to have any idea of what he was selling was illegal?
No idea at all. No.
No. And we've already heard that he was just finished his personal license course, but I think this, I suppose for you as well, Tanya, since when you went afterwards on the visits following, has he got any idea about sort of rules and regulations around licensing? Not particularly, apart from the last visit when he advised that he'd done the personal license and he now knew what he needed to do. And with regards to underage sales, just a generic answer. And I did reiterate how important it was when you selling alcohol. It's not just the case of selling a product. You have to be responsible under the Licensing Act and all the licensing conditions. He did respond, but again, it was a little bit difficult to communicate with him. And to add to that, when I dropped off the application as well, because I hand delivered the review application to him, I did advise that all this information had already been passed on to him, and he did look a little bit clueless and just explained that his phone wasn't working, and I advised everything had been handed in on paper and for him to read it all. And similar to what Sarah had done the next day, I did advise him to get someone to have a look and help him. I said, you may need assistance either from an independent person or legal, or even the people who he did the course with, because he would have been explained all the licensing conditions and the requirements under the Act, because you need that to be able to to hold a personal license certificate. But yeah, he seemed clueless again.
And sorry, Chair, don't mind. Some of the breaches that you've identified and are in the letters, I mean, they are quite basic breaches, and from what I can see for some of them, they could be easily put right.
And that's what we try to do, is
Yeah.
give them the opportunity to do so by helping them.
Yeah.
But it was just not taken up. The
No.
offers were there all the time. We did visit twice, tried to explain, and still nothing. So yeah.
Do you have any further questions of the applicant? Councillor, be my guest.
The language thing, do you think he even understood what you were actually saying to him? Do you think he knows what advice was being given?
I believed so, because we did try as hard as, maybe not into every single detail, and that's why I asked him to, or advised that he gets assistance from either a consultant or independent legal advice, because there's only some, we can go through the whole process with him and explain the conditions and what he's required to do. A couple of times when I said you need this, CCTV was one of the main issues. Twice that we visited, he said that it would be he'd employed someone and they were coming to fix it. And I said, that's one big step. And then we explained the whole process with regards to the paperwork and what he needed. By the end, he said, yes, I know what I need to do now, or seemed to know what he was doing. He said, I'll follow all that. And I said, I'll put it all in writing. If you have questions after that and you can't get assistance, do come back to us. And that was his opportunity. Even if he didn't understand, that was his opportunity to come back to us and say, do you know, I'm not really sure what you're trying, what I need to do here. And we would be more than happy to assist him further. So a couple of times it was difficult and it seemed like he didn't know. But then once we explained, we did get a nod and just assumed that he was understanding at that point.
Is there any requirement for licence holders to have particular level of language skill?
No, there's no requirement. Although we would expect them to be at a capacity to understand what conditions and what the law that they need to abide by.
Yes, right. It's probably not entirely relevant, but I'm just curious. In terms of the training that's required on an individual to obtain that personal license, I'm assuming this is done by some external agency.
Correct. It is personal. Yeah, it's usually they just go online and find different providers. The contents are all the same, all under the Licensing Act and what steps. So we've got underage sales, filling forms, but it is provided by an external body.
Do we have any further questions of the applicant? At this stage, we would invite the licence holder to make their representation, but they have not attended the hearing today. So we will move on to the sum up, starting with the applicant who went last.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to emphasise that lodging this review application has not been taken lightly. It's a very unusual step for us to take this, to apply for a review, but it reflects the extent of the concerns regarding the persistent breaches of the licence conditions at these premises. And as explained in my presentation, we've made repeated efforts to engage with the licence holder and engage with them constructively, but all attempts have failed. So unfortunately, despite these efforts, compliance has not been achieved and the risks of the licensing objectives remain. So to be clear, what is being requested today is not the revocation of the licence nor a heavy-handed approach. We're seeking proportionate and reasonable steps to bring the premises back into compliance. However, should these breaches continue and the licence, should members decide to go with the proposal by the licensing authority and the breaches continue, we will have no problem in bringing it back to yourselves for a revocation of the licence or any other action that you deem necessary. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Would the licensing officer like to sum up?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've heard from all parties present. I will now conclude this hearing. And at the end of the subcommittee meeting, we will adjourn in private with our legal advisor and the clerk to deliberate. The decision will be conveyed in writing as set out earlier. Thank you for your representations.
Chair, I'll just clear the room before we move on to item 6. Okay.
Okay, so item 6 is exclusion of the press and public for the following item. In relation to the items of business appearing below, the committee is asked to consider the following resolution: that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1 and 2 and part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, and that the public interest in withholding the information outweighs such interest in disclosing the information.
Thank you, Chair. I agree. Yes, we are now in exempt session.